Welcome. Glad to have you here. This is going to be a fun conversation. I made a dated reference. I said like the hair club for men, and I got blank stares from Christeen and Joe. Not only am I an advocate and is One Accord a partner with Dream Bigger Squad, your firm, but we are also clients. And you both have helped me launch a business endeavor. I'm currently working with you and Dream Bigger Squad in our go-to-market and revenue strategy. We'll get into that. But you've also served One Accord clients. And so there's 3 or 5 different angles.
It's one of my favorite things right now to try to explain to people how I know Nick Anderson or how I know One Accord. And so I was like, well, how much time do you have? Because there's about 6 different angles here. And you didn't even mention, mentee-mentor relationships with Jeff, the founder, and the referral partnership as well. We've sent each other business already. So there's a lot.
There is a lot. Well, how about we start at the beginning, let's say, figurative beginning, and you can decide where the beginning is. But for those that don't know, our audience, what is Dream Bigger Squad? And I'm sure some of your personal stories can kind of fit in there. So who is Christeen? Who is Joe? And let's set some framing here.
Okay. Let's start there. Well, I was born from the beginning.
I was born very young.
So my mom, I'm just kidding. Yes, well, it does relate. So I was born in the Philippines. That's a big part of the story here for even starting Dream Bigger as a business. But I was raised in the US, and about 5 years ago, I actually left the corporate America thing. I was at Apple at the time and working in the big tech industry, and decided to start a business to create jobs in the Philippines, which is where I was born. So Dream Bigger as like a holding company, I guess I would say, started about 5 years ago, and Dream Bigger Squad started about a year ago. So it's kind of the latest addition to the Dream Bigger family. And so with that, I'll focus on Dream Bigger Squad specifically. And Joe is obviously a big part of that. If it wasn't clear in the beginning, we're married.
That was not clear, so that's good. I was wondering when you were going to...
So he's my business partner.
Clarify that on discovery calls with clients.
Right. Because my name is still my maiden name on Zoom. So they're like, are you guys married? Anyways, so we became life partners about 2.5 years ago. And, he started a business before we got married. I started a business before we got married. And now that we're married, it's all just one big thing that we get to do together. And Dream Bigger Squad, again, has been the latest addition to the various initiatives, but it's been the most exciting so far, I would say. The last year, we've been able to help U.S. companies grow their B2B revenue. Specifically by, we build offshore business development teams in the Philippines for these clients, primarily doing outbound sales motions for US clients. And our ultimate KPI when we're working with clients is driving revenue. We're not like a pure SDR shop just booking appointments, although, that's obviously a part of the process. But ultimately, we have the vision of having a team that's really driving revenue for clients. And there's a number of different reasons for that, but in summary, that's what Dream Bigger Squad is all about.
Well, let me interject here. I'm just thinking, in your description, there were 3 or 5 kind of key terms that I like to pause and say to anybody listening. The first time I heard someone refer to sales motions, they asked me what my sales motions were, and I said, sometimes happy, but mostly sad. So I didn't understand.
Sometimes running, sometimes crawling.
Yeah. And SDRs and, revenue. So what we're talking about here are people who are doing outbound sales activities, cold calls, emails,
LinkedIn,
outreach, LinkedIn. These are sales people. And they live in and work from the Philippines. At that basic level, I think we can start to think about, well, how as a business owner, how does that make sense? And you said B2B, so
that's right.
Business to business sales. And so and what do you call the folks that are in the Dream Bigger Squad?
Internally, we call the team revenue builders.
Okay.
because that's the kind of mindset, kind of ownership mindset that we want to create. Like we're building revenue for our clients.
And so One Accord has contracted with, we've hired Dream Bigger Squad. And today we have one active revenue builder, Edwin. And he's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
He is.
And Edwin doesn't show up alone. He comes with Joe. Maybe that's a segue.
Yeah, Edwin has been great. Glad that you're enjoying having him on the team. We've been enjoying him as well. He brings a ton of energy and 15 years of sales experience.
20 plus, yeah.
20 plus even, but specifically in this like B2B kind of complex sales. And the terms that you talked about earlier, for those that maybe don't know, all you're taking is a very complex motion of sales that is something from complete cold to an existing relationship and existing ongoing revenue for those that don't know. And so there's a lot of stages that get broken up. So that's what SDR means for those that are listening. Like that's just a very early stage in the sales outreach. But then Edwin, with his expertise and his history, can do the full thing. And he and I have both done that as well. So my background is more of the engineering education, B2B sales experience, solid for the last 16, 17 years or so. Always selling very complicated products. So my very first job out of college was selling industrial robotics, where we would help factories automate. And it's not quite as sexy as you might think. You know, I got to see like some tortilla packaging machines, and the biggest project I worked on, and then I was like a 24-year-old, was a 43 axis door making machine. Huh. So if you imagine your car has two axes of motion. There's the front wheel spinning, and then there's the back wheel spinning, two axes. Whereas this had a 43 axes, and you'd put in raw materials on one end and a door would spit out on the other side, a completed door. And from there, it was always complex things. I had parts go to SpaceX, literally into space, and worked for SaaS companies and all these random places. But now the cool part is getting to put all that together, because I was an outside sales guy. I've been inside of 1,000 plus businesses physically inside their space and seeing how they operate. And so now the beauty is I get to teach those motions to other salespeople, the complex sales cycle, but also understanding companies like One Accord, like what do you actually do? Like what does One Accord actually do?
Well, and I think that's a topic to go a little deeper into. Mm-hmm. And I think on the client side, being a client of yours, you in particular, Joe, your depth and the level of detail that you go into to understand our business, our ICP, our ideal client profile, to know exactly who Edwin should be reaching out to, and when he's reaching out to them, how to engage.
What do you say?
So, I mean, that level of investment in understanding undoubtedly is going to pay off into the future, as compared to, I mean, I'll use the word randomly picking an offshore sales shop that puts someone randomly with me to then go say things about my brand in the public to people, that I don't know, that are unsupervised, untrained. Right. So you're doing a lot in the front end, but also monitoring along the way. You shared with me just this morning, you joined Edwin on a qualification.
That was a big part of our business plan going into it, because we have known shops that focus on, as you say, some would call it spray and pray mentality, where they're just throwing out as much activity as possible into the market just to see something maybe trickle down. And so what they see in those cases, a very low response rate to their activity. So they're doing a ton of work. It's the same amount of work, and they're seeing very low results from it.
Well, and I understand this from the entrepreneur's seat. I just want more. I want more leads.
Right.
I want more. I mean, ultimately revenue. But if we follow that back, and the story that makes so much sense to me, and I think we all know at least who Alex Hormozi is, and we have some sense of where his messaging lands. One of the things that he says that sticks with me is nobody knows who we are. Mm-hmm. Like if you walk around the streets of Kirkland and you say One Accord, somebody's going to say, "Oh, Jeff Rogers." Same is true in Bellevue, Redmond maybe, Spokane some, but around the nation, nobody knows who we are. Mm-hmm. And so we've got right now 100,000, let's say 150,000 prospective companies that fit our ideal client profile, whom we could serve. They just don't know who we are. And so one of Edwin's roles is to let them know who we are.
Let them know. Yeah. In a way that they'll remember and respect and appreciate. That's one of the differences in quality is that, if you spray and pray, people might see a bad email that was not thought through, or you might get a bad call that was just not leaving you with the best feeling. But if you have somebody like Edwin who's well-trained and very experienced, and he can make you feel much better about it because his email is more customized and more personal. His phone calls are more professional and respectful. And so then what they remember about One Accord is a much higher quality feeling than if they had just gotten, half a dozen emails that said, hey, what do you think about my last email? Hey, what did you think about my last? Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure you get them too. Yeah. The dozens of, WordPress in the subject line, random cold emails.
Yeah.
Your profile caught my attention. Like, come on.
The daily dozens.
Just the daily dozens. That's funny. So that's not the game that you play at Dream Bigger.
Not our desire.
It's not. I mean, you just don't. And I can say that firsthand. So talk about some of the other clients, like other industries, because it's B2B. You're not calling households with a roofing offer.
Not telemarketing. Yeah.
Not telemarketing. Why did you choose to stay in the B2B lane?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it really came down to skill set. Joe just mentioned he has, close to 20 years of B2B sales experience here in the United States. And I have obviously the access to the Philippines and talent and all of that. And so just bringing that together, it made sense. We wanted to stick with, a service that we felt we could deliver a high quality and outperform some of the competitors that are in the market. So, and at the same time too, the, B2B sales cycle it is more complex, as he had mentioned, which requires more of that high touch, relational, consultative type of an approach. Whereas the B2C sales motions tend to be a lot faster. And honestly, AI is taking on so much of that right now because they're quick sales. Right. So we felt that, for B2B full cycle sales, there's that human element that's really required to do it well, that our talent in the Philippines can really shine.
One of our trainings that we do ahead of the time is we do a great deal of training with the sales reps before they ever get placed with the client. And one of the things that we train them on is we put the human back in the loop at Dream Bigger Squad. Because yes, we use AI tools, you kind of have to, but also there has to be a human in this activity. And that is the biggest standout right now. That's what's standing out is when you and I or Christeen as owners get a very well-written, thoughtful email or a phone call from an actual human, already that is a standout moment. Yes, clearly this is different than everything, all the other daily dozens. And so that's the thing that we're trying to lean into is the true differentiator right now in B2B sales is a human. A well-trained, thoughtful, empathetic, skilled human.
I had a all caps thank you in an email reply to what was effectively a cold email. I said to this person, hey, I noticed that you're in our CRM system from 3 years ago. Just thought I'd reach out and see if there's a reason that we should talk. By the way, this is not an AI generated email. And his response in all caps, thank you. And yet using the technology that's available to us is, we're doing it. Yeah, you're doing it. Of course. Doing it well.
Yeah.
But adding in the humanity. Okay, so let's have some conversation about the humanity of the business and what there are multiple bottom lines to Dream Bigger, aren't there?
Definitely.
Yeah. What are they?
Yeah, I was gonna say we talked ahead of time about discussing the ownership mindset, and Christeen is a fantastic example of this. Just to lace this up a little bit, and part of the thing that we built Dream Bigger Squad on was, as she described, the bridge between the Philippines and the United States that she represents, and this is something we teach in B2B sales as well. The three main components that you have to have in order to build a bridge is two foundations on either side, and then what connects them. And Christeen is a fantastic example of that. She has a firm foundation in the Philippines, born there, speaks the language, goes back very frequently, does business, invests there, but then was educated in the United States, worked for large corporations here, but now is creating a connection between the two of them. And so our reps often I try to teach them to emulate her. So the bottom line, in my opinion, is Christeen in many ways.
Oh, no.
And so
They'll be better than me. That's the hope. But yeah,
hopefully, but you've got to start somewhere.
no,
Version 1.
it's very kind.
But yes, other details.
Yeah. The big question that really drove me to start this business in the first place was, how might we radically transform the Philippines in our lifetime? And it's a big question, right? Like talking about transformation, because there's a lot of problems. Those of us who have lived in the Philippines, who know anything about the Philippines, like I don't have to tell them what challenges exist in terms of broken family, poverty, corruption, you name it, environmental challenges, so on and so forth. And I'm not saying that, I'm going to be the savior of it all, but I just know that business can have such a meaningful role in being part of the solution to help families in the Philippines flourish. In particular, so that they can access opportunity there and not have to leave, like what millions of families have had to do, including mine.
Leave to the U.S. or
Leave abroad. Yeah, anywhere. Yeah.
You can go anywhere on the planet and find Filipino workers.
Filipinos are in like over 200 different countries all over the world. So that was kind of the bigger picture mission vision behind Dream Bigger. And, for me, I am a person of faith. So, my faith was definitely foundational to why I even decided to make this jump, because it was a scary unknown. There's lots of unknowns. Like, why not just set up a business in the United States? Like, why go do that in the Philippines? Like, if financial gain was the primary metric, like it's much easier and faster to make more money doing business in the US than it is trying to start a business in the Philippines or investing in the Philippines. But
what are some of the unique challenges to starting a business in the Philippines?
Well, the infrastructure in the Philippines, just from a government, energy standpoint, even like roads, so on and so forth, obviously it's considered more of a emerging market than a developed market. And so fast growing in terms, if you look at GDP over the last few years, like it's fast growing, but nowhere near the size of the United States or the type of infrastructure and efficiencies we have here. Like here in the United States, I can set up an LLC online. It'll take me a few minutes.
Right.
We can set up a business. We can access small business loans. Like there's a lot of government resources for that. And so there's these structures that actually really support startups, not to mention the maturity of the ecosystems here, like Seattle, Silicon Valley, New York, et cetera, where there's so many investors and entrepreneurs in one place. And that kind of density just allows for that flow of information, capital.
Dream Bigger and the squad, that business and the portfolio of companies, right, is just one. And you've made other investments in yeah. And so that what you're referring to goes beyond the idea of, I'd say, just hiring the revenue builders there.
But that is at the heart of everything, the investing side, and then now Dream Bigger Squad. It is to create sustainable jobs for families in the Philippines and to help families flourish. And so, our core values, we have 5 of them, are wholeness, freedom, generosity, legacy, and empathy. And we talk about those, we train on them, we do our best to practice them and grow in them in the way that we live and work and lead ourselves. And that's a big part of what success ultimately looks like for me, is that we're forming not just amazing salespeople that are going to drive revenue, but we are forming whole life leaders who are going to have an impact in their homes. They're going to be healthy holistically in mind, body, spirit, in their relationships, in their finances, in their homes, in their communities, in their families. Because I think that's what's going to be required to achieve that bigger picture transformation that we're talking about in the culture, in the country. It's activated whole life leaders that are going to embrace their full God-given potential and not be afraid to fail.
Is just the way you talk through that, is that radical in the kind of paradigm of Filipino life?
It's a good question. Yes. So there was a recent survey in the Philippines conducted by BCG where it asked Filipinos, like, what's your dream? The top dream was to have enough like financial security to afford healthcare costs. Like that's the dream, right? So you could just kind of extrapolate from there where the dream is really the avoidance of catastrophe and security and survival.
The image of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that pyramid.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty low. So people are definitely still in that survival stage looking for security and safety. And then once you get there, then it's all about trying to control it, right? So then you want to maintain that security and safety as much as possible to avoid that suffering or survival that you maybe once had. And that is just so counter to entrepreneurship, which requires you to embrace risk and have that confidence. Yeah. And so I'm not saying everyone has to be an entrepreneur, but I do think there is just such a high degree of like focus on safety and security that people, I think, kind of limit themselves.
The entrepreneurial life, which we all know, we share in, and if your clients are B2B sellers, they are entrepreneurs. Our clients are entrepreneurs. Like this is the community that we spend so much of our life in. We all understand the risk. It's a daily thing. It's my name behind whatever brand is there. It's my personal finance that's on the line. It's the future of my kids and communities and so forth. I'm just pausing in this moment to be so thankful for the environment that we operate in the U.S. that allows us that freedom.
It changed my life. I was when I started my first business and started hanging out with entrepreneurs and changing my association. That was at a time when I hated people. Like at that time of my life, I was just the way that I thought and the way that I behaved. I hated people, and so changing my association to entrepreneurs, to people that are focused on adding value to people. That got me out of that sequence and got me out of that way of thinking and behaving and acting.
What did you see in the entrepreneurs that inspired you, that made you say, I want to be like that guy?
Two things came up for me that was really visceral. One was the result. Where I come from, farmers, rednecks, orchardists, we have a kind of a joke, like if you want to grow fruit, ask the person that has fruit on their tree. Take advice from the one that has the results that you want. And so I was a kid with big dreams, and I had lots of posters on my wall, and coming into the corporate life and getting my first big boy job and trying to figure out who FICA was and why they got part of my paycheck. That was all very frustrating and angering along the way. But then I realized that entrepreneurs had more of the lifestyle that I was after. They had more time, more options, more generosity, more peace, often more health, and a lot of other things that I wanted as well, like better marriages. And so I saw that being a business owner was the better option from a results standpoint.
Who are these entrepreneurs that you're hanging out with that have all the free time?
Happy to make introductions. Yeah. The other part was that whether it was environmental or just the way it was in my DNA, like I believe that there was a purpose in my life. I believe everybody has a definitive purpose that is unique to them. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to fulfill that if I hated people. So it was kind of a simple realization that
we wouldn't be married.
Whatever my purpose was, I didn't know what it was at the time. I couldn't articulate it, but I knew it would involve people. And so I knew that I couldn't stay like that. So I kind of had to make the choice. Am I going to stay angry, which has a sweet flavor to it? Or am I going to figure it out and get off this bus?
Yeah.
So thankfully I got new association, a handful of years. I meet people like her who implement their faith into their work and their business in a way that I had never even seen before, and talked about it in a way that was beyond conviction and admirable, and the relationship that she has with Jesus on a daily basis. And it's like, okay, there's even more to this. There's more layers to being a Christian business owner that I hadn't even comprehended, let alone thought of on my own.
That's interesting. As you say that, I'm reminded of I'm walking out of a meeting, and a young guy that works with us, he kind of said to me later, actually it wasn't walking out of the meeting, it was much later. He said, that's the first time in my career I've watched anyone talk about faith in a business meeting. Thank you for doing that. I was like, wow, that's interesting.
That guy's now on the team.
So how does faith show up in your daily work, in the companies?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mentioned our core values earlier, and I mean, all of those I did not just come up with out of thin air. Those are definitely informed by biblical truth that I have learned to practice in my life. And so, and then we just use that language to allow more people to understand it rather than quoting the Bible verses associated with each of them. So foundational to like how we want to lead and work are biblical principles. And I think, as I talked earlier, I see the work that we do because it's all about people. Like we're building a team, we're coaching a team, and sales, it can be a grueling work.
It's hard. It's
you
so
get
hard.
rejected all the time.
Sales
So
is so hard.
It's so much about how you lead yourself each day, how you're going to manage your time, how you're going to own your energy, and all of those daily little decisions can really affect your success. So all of that is leadership. And so we talk a lot about whole life leadership in the company and helping each other grow as leaders. And for me, the best example of an entrepreneurial leader is Jesus Christ. Like he recruited, right? The 12 people, built the team, coached up the team for 3 years, taught them, showed them the way. Unfortunately, he died on the cross, but then they had enough to keep going and to keep advancing the mission, right? The company, the way that he had taught. And even to this day, billions of people follow that same teaching, that ripple effect of what Jesus did. It still affects my life thousands of years later and affects how millions of people allocate capital. There's all of these things that stem from the life of Jesus as an entrepreneur. So if we think about being a transformational leader, building a transformational business, why not follow Jesus?
Well, like Joe said, I mean, look at the people that have fruit on their tree. Look at the people that did it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
2,000 years later, we're still buying the brand.
Right.
Yeah. And practically speaking, day to day, we pray. That's just a commitment that we have in the company. We kind of tell our team that as well. And not everybody has the same faith. We don't necessarily rule out, for that in the hiring process, but we're very transparent from the beginning that it's kind of hard for me to hide it. Like I follow Jesus, but I don't expect people to necessarily, have to believe that to work here. But we've gotten comments from people over time that working with us has helped them kind of rekindle their relationship with God. And for us, that's a cool thing.
Multiple bottom lines. Let's talk about one of the other bottom lines, financial bottom line. I think of our work with you, Joe, and Edwin, and was so thankful and appreciative for I'm a data guy. I like numbers. I like charts. I like graphs. Yeah. So the way that you present data to me, where I can just very clearly say, oh, that's the needle moved. It went from, this number to that number. What kind of results are you seeing for your clients in the work that your revenue builders are doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I go into those meetings knowing how much you love the data, because if I had a nickel for every time you said, let me get my popcorn when I'm showing you data, I think I would have probably enough for some popcorn. Yeah. At least at a movie theater, which that's a house worth.
Yeah.
So the results that we're seeing now, still a bit early days, full confession, right? We've been in business for about a year. And so it's off to a great start though. And so we have clients this is answering one of your early questions as well. We have clients that are in the ed tech space. So they sell educational technology to schools for children. That's been one of our best so far. We worked with professional service firms like yours, and also a marketing and brand management company. We also have worked with food and beverage, wholesale groups, and there's a few others in there as well. So some of them we've taken from zero sales pipeline, zero sales activity of any kind, to having a full pipeline of opportunity worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah. Now, is everything in that pipeline going to sell? Absolutely not. Never does, never will. Right. But there was zero, and now there's hundreds of thousands of dollars of opportunity for new revenue. Yeah. And then there's new customers coming in the door.
Yeah. And that was like within a quarter.
And that's within 1 quarter. Something that was not being done all of a sudden has life to it. And then another one, we have an ed tech company that quite successful, large sales team of 26-ish people. The CEO decided to spin out a whole new business, because that's how entrepreneurs think.
Yes.
Spin out a whole new business. A lot of the executives worked both companies, and they wanted to go after a different segment of the market and try a whole new thing. And so we supplied 2 of their first 3 salespeople, and now the parent company has hired 4 more salespeople from us. So because we did so well in the first, now they want more for the parent company.
Yeah, that's good testimony. Yeah. That's good. I think of as KPIs go, key performance indicators. Translate all these buzzwords.
Acronyms. Gotta have your TLAs.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you. That was good. I think of leading indicators as being more important in the work that your team is doing as compared to lagging. And so as we think, and when I say we, I'm talking One Accord, and as we're advising clients around strategy and goal setting, et cetera, we say, okay, let's set some goals for this quarter. I'm this guy too. Well, I want X revenue. That's a lagging indicator. Revenue comes at the end of all the other stuff. So what does it take to get that revenue? Well, I need 10 new clients this quarter. Cool. Still, again, lagging indicator. How do you get 10 clients? Well, I need to present a proposal to 15 prospects. Well, why 15? Because historically we close 70% of our proposals. Now, I'm going through this intentionally because these are questions that you asked me. As going back to the beginning, your kind of getting to know One Accord goes through who's your client, what's your proposal rate, what's your close rate, what's all these data. So I've come through this exercise and said, I want 1,000. We don't have the word defined here, but prospects. Could be suspects, could be targets, right? Yeah, it's good. And the words matter in this space of sales motions and business development and revenue, right? So these folks, these 1,000 people, can be defined as business owners. So they're real people. Mm-hmm. Bob, I always call him Bob. Yeah. 1,000 Bobs. They own a business that fits our ideal client profile. So 25 million or more in revenue. They know who we are now. Mm-hmm. They know what we do now, and they would take our call. Doesn't mean they're going to hire us. Doesn't mean they have a need for us. But if they fit our profile and they know who we are and they would take our call, I want 1,000 of those lined up. And I just know that if we're in that level of conversation with 1,000 Bobs, we are going to be very successful as a company.
Well, you've also put that together, which in a way is completely different historically than how One Accord has operated for the last 25 years. I still haven't asked you this question straight to the heart. Why did you want to make that switch from a business that has historically run on referrals and done so very intentionally and done so well? Mm-hmm. But now you're switching to a completely different motion, which is cold outbound.
Yep. In
a way that's never been done at One Accord.
Yeah. So I would clarify it to say not switching, but adding to.
That's fair. Thank you. Yeah, you're right.
And it is, the answer lies in what we are observing around us with AI at the center of the conversation. So a business that is reliant entirely on referrals is capitated. It cannot get bigger than those people who maintain the referral relationships. And any one person is limited to, I mean, let's just be real, 10 referral partners, 12 maybe, 60 if you're Jeff Rogers, 600 if you're Jeff Rogers.
Right.
So if I think, how do I grow One Accord to become a platform professional services firm, which is that's what I want. You mentioned BCG earlier in doing some surveys, the Boston Consulting Group, right? Accenture, Deloitte, McKinsey. These are the big ones. Well, then we've got a firm that I admire in our space, West Monroe Partners. And they're, 400 some odd people around the globe. And they're a really well run, I admire them a lot, and still considered a boutique consulting firm. But they're, 200 or 300 times as big as we are, right? I aspire to grow to that size. And so there's a pathway to growth. I can go hire 10 rainmakers that have all the connections, that have all the referrals, and get there that way. And I might hire 3. I'd like to. But I want to augment, I want to support those people with revenue builders. And a part of it, so there's a why story, like Simon Sinek, start with why. You have a why story. It's, become clear in this conversation. Right? You have a heart for where you were born, the Philippines, and you have a heart for God, and there are stories that drive what you do and why you do. You have a why story. A part of my why story is that my mother was an entrepreneur. She lived a rough life, right? In her early years, she put herself into a foster home when she was 16 and put herself through beauty school with my aunt. And they started a business, a hair salon. It was a successful business. And at the end of 20 years, they sold the equipment, turned out the lights, and shut down the business. There's enterprise value in that hair salon. And, given the era and the time, like maybe they could have sold it for $2 or $3 or $5, $600,000, right? Her life's work went into that, and they turned out the lights. Now that I know what could have been, I'm angry about that. Like that stirs in me. So there's 1,000 Bobs or Susans, Wanda, my mom. There's 1,000 Wandas in America that have a business. I just talked to a guy 2 days ago. Same position. His business partner had a heart attack. And so they had to the business had to transition, and they were not able to sell it because they weren't prepared, and they didn't have people around them that could help them take this business asset to market and realize economic value for their life's work. Right? So I want to talk to all of them. I want every one of the Bobs and Wandas in America to know who we are and what we do. And I can't get there with 10 people in Kirkland and Bellevue or 30 people across the US that they themselves have 10 or 30 referral relationships. I need Edwin talking to 75 people a day. And another Edwin talking to another 75 people a day.
Right. And Nakia marketing.
I'm super proud of our marketing and the messaging that we put out there. And even still, Bob doesn't know who we are. Right. So that's driving me and why. Yeah.
Well, I was taught young, thanks to my parents. My parents had 2 different business models. Both my parents had their own business as well. And I wonder where I learned it from. But they had 2 different ways of doing things. My mom always had coffee shops, physical locations. She would have cider mills, event planning, tourist destinations. So we always had people coming to us to do business, right? They'd come in, they would look at what we had to offer. Either they would like it and pay for it, or they wouldn't. And that was their choice. My dad, he would go out to businesses because he was an engineer. He was an integrator. He would help factories automate with his expertise and his prowess. But he had to go to their locations. He had to call on them. He had to build his business on referrals. And so I saw two very different ways of doing things. You either go out to their place of business to help them, and you have to reach out to them and initiate, or you wait for them to come to you. Those were the two ways of building business. You go to them, or they come to you, and they're both valid.
Yeah.
But you're kind of waiting. In referrals, in a sense, you're kind of waiting for them to come to you. But you want to go to them.
We operate in such a narrow, unique niche. So what we do is so specialized and it's so specific. Like the use case where it makes sense for us to come into a client, our client's business, come into Bob's company is generally 3 years before Bob wants to sell his business. And we are there to help optimize the company to achieve a higher enterprise value, make the company worth more. We are only relevant to Bob in a narrow window of time. And so not only does Bob need to know who we are, but he needs to be thinking of us when he's in that window of time. And or his attorney or his CPA or his wealth advisor needs to know who we are in that window of time. So we have historically focused on those referral partners, the trusted advisors, Bob's trusted advisors, and built relationships with them. Using the Dream Bigger Squad, working with Edwin, allows us to go directly to Bob and let him know who we are at, not scale yet, but it is scalable. Scaling, and it's scalable, and so it is scaling. Yeah, I mean, you may know the data more than I do, but I think Edwin's already reached out to 600.
Close to 1,000 now. Okay. Yeah. And that's with multi-channel outreach. So he's doing it on LinkedIn, email, phone calls, multiple touches per, because the data currently tells us that you need to have somewhere between 10 and 12 touches, outreaches, points of contact with Bob in order to actually get Bob's attention.
And that's supported and supplemented by the great marketing that we have that may show up in Bob's social media feed if he's there. And
so how have you seen sales evolve in the last 6 years from a One Accord perspective, but also zooming out? How has B2B sales evolved in the last 6 years?
6 years, relevant question, since 2020. I mean, the whole world. So 6 years ago, I was selling bank products and services. And that very relational sales, we would, similar to One Accord, we would market through trusted advisors, but we would also go directly to Bob. Very relational. Very rarely did someone call me in commercial banking because they saw a Facebook ad or Googled me. It was generally on an introduction, on a referral basis. And then the world shut down. And so we weren't doing events and we weren't meeting with people. And so we had to shift the way we did sales and marketing. So that started. Where I see sales today, and in particular for the entrepreneur, the business owner, as the target of sales and as someone driving revenue activity, the people are worn out of sales motions. I am just tired of being sold to. I'm just done with it.
And it's everywhere. It's not just sales people, but it's also the marketing. It's every social media platform you're on, every billboard, every restaurant. Everyone's got a subscription.
So I like to think of the difference between signal and noise, noise and signal. Sales has gotten very noisy. I want signal. There are things that I want to buy that are coming through as noise. So, there's an example of, we were talking earlier off camera about clay. Clay is technology. It's amazingly complicated and sophisticated and robust. I want clay. Nobody can sell me clay. It's all noise, right? I'm just frustrated with this. It's so cool. If I just had someone who was like, hey, I'll help you get this set up. I'll help you do, we can do this, right? Follow me. Like, okay, I'm buying. So because I'm the entrepreneur and I see the value in that and I want it, I'm actually saying to Clay, let me sell your product for you. Zoho is one. So Zoho is technology platform. We use it. We use many of the apps in the Zoho constellation of apps, CRM, accounting and finance, documentation. So we think Zoho has CRM. Most people know what CRM is. Few people know who Zoho is. Accounting and finance, we use Zoho Books versus QuickBooks. We use Zoho Sign versus DocuSign. We use Zoho Vault instead of Keeper or Password Saver, Password Protector. Zoho has so many cool tools, so many cool features. We use it internally. We discover every day that, oh, you can do that in Zoho. They cannot sell their own product. Like they don't. So we partner with Zoho to implement and to sell and to explain. Like their expertise is developing the product and making it cool, not selling it, right? Or servicing it or implementing it, right? So that creates space for us. Back to your question. How have I seen sales evolve? Unfortunately, there's just too much noise. Gary Vaynerchuk says the truth. Marketers just destroy everything. Sorry, Nikolai, Akaya. But we go in there and we make a mess of LinkedIn DMs. My gosh, LinkedIn DMs, right? My email inbox. Like I just don't even like these things anymore. I used to not like watching television because of all the commercials. My Facebook feed is full of stuff, right? And so this is what's so good about Edwin and Dream Bigger Squad is that Edwin is not making noise. He's delivering signal. And it's, hey, Bob, are you someone we could help? And if the answer is no, and if it's yes, let's have a conversation. Yeah. But we have to somehow get the signal through all of the noise to get there. And that's the challenge.
That's the trick. And that's the $1 million trick.
And unfortunately, AI slop is just making way more noise than signal. So that's where we exist today. So any way that a business can differentiate, and I really look at Dream Bigger Squad as being a differentiator. Anybody can hire noisemakers, cold callers that do telemarketing that make noise. What you really want is signal.
I'm going to clip that and send it to all of our salespeople, just so they know here's what it's like for all the CEOs that you're reaching out to.
Well, and the thing is, like, you get to signal because you do such a thorough job up front, understanding, okay, who should we be talking to, which means who we shouldn't be talking to, because that creates noise. And when we talk to them, what should we say that's not noise? Like, can't stress enough how important that is. Okay, closing thoughts, if you have them. I wonder. If you don't, then we just wrap up. But
there was one piece that I wanted to maybe just add a bow to that Christeen said and said quite well, and you kept referring to which is multiple bottom lines. I wonder what that makes you feel like hearing that. I've never heard that phrase before, multiple bottom lines. I'll have to circle back to that because I don't understand. But the point being is that the one that really captured my imagination and really captured my buy-in to Dream Bigger Squad was we teach ownership mindset. You talked about it earlier. Like, you get to hang out with entrepreneurs. What's special about that? There are people that take responsibility over the way things should be. And so one of the ways that we start our training with our revenue builders is, what does ownership mean? And I have some silly ways of explaining it and trying to keep it fun. But it means a few different things. In my experience, maybe you can confirm this, you've been at this longer, there's no one else to blame. If the toilets need to be cleaned because the person who is hired to clean them doesn't show up, you clean the toilets, and you see how the little dots connect to the bigger picture. That's what an owner does. They see these things, and that's how they view their business. And so the point being is that we believe that we're creating, and what we're desiring to do is create the next generation of entrepreneurs in the Philippines, because other than Jesus Christ, in our opinion, the number one vehicle for affecting positive change in somebody's life, their family tree, the community around them, is ownership mindset. Entrepreneurialism, business ownership is how you can affect positive change. The United States is built on it. The greatest change has always come from when people take responsibility for the way things should be. Yeah. And so that's partially how we're trying to create signal, is take ownership over what you're saying, what you're doing. Don't be script dependent. Don't be just taking words from AI and copy pasting them into your outreach model. Make it human, make it your own, be an owner. And that's what I've learned over the last decade. It took me forever to get my head through that brick wall, but hanging out with people like y'all and Jeff, and it's like, okay, that take some responsibility for the way things could be.
3 thoughts in rapid fire and response. Number 1, multiple bottom lines really comes out of my training in the nonprofit sector. So you think of profits, but maybe it's people. For some, it might be environment. For others, it might be evangelism. Like, we measure the success of our business on EBITDA, but we also measure the success of our business on how many of our employees become millionaires. We measure the success of our business on how many business owners successfully, transition their business and give X amount of dollars into, kingdom philanthropy. Like, other ways to measure success is the multiple bottom line. Second point in rapid fire is the notion of ownership. I want to make the people that are in One Accord owners of One Accord, partner owned. I want there to be real ownership. I heard it said once, company owners said, well, I want everybody to act like an owner. And I say back to them, well, then give them equity, make them owners, right? Because they're not owners until they're owners. So I used the word stewardship. This other person who is giving that message used the word stewardship. And I was like, yeah, that makes really good sense, being a good steward. But on ownership, yes, I clean the toilets, not because I have to, sometimes because I have to, but it's because I want to. And that notion of ownership is that when someone walks into my house, I want a level of experience, right? And that, I can hire somebody to do that, and hopefully they'll do it as well as I will, and not, scrubbing toilets, but other things. But ultimately it is that someone is hiring One Accord, and they know that I own half the company and Jeff owns half the company. And so am I going to be proud of the way they speak about their experience working with One Accord? That's what it means to be an owner. It's like, it's like when you're on a sports team, right? And maybe you're not a starter on the team, but when your team wins, you're a part of that team. And so people talk about and celebrate the team, and you feel that. And when the team loses, even if you had nothing to do with it, you're sitting on the bench, when the team loses, you feel that. Like, that's ownership. And then when you get called on the field and it's like your turn and you have that sense of ownership, you're going to do everything you can to win for the team. That's ownership. And I think that the entrepreneurs, so then, the third thing here is that entrepreneurs and changing communities and marketplace ministry and so forth, we entrepreneurs understand that in order for us to have healthy, thriving businesses, we need healthy, thriving communities. We want people to feel safe walking in front of our storefronts. We want the streets to be clean. We want law and order. We want good stewardship. We want parks where our kids can play. We sponsor baseball fields. That's ownership. And I don't see it happen any better than, and I think you were kind of alluding to this, through the marketplace leaders.
Agreed. And that's how you transform the Philippines in our lifetime, to Christeen's point, or even in the United States. It's create a whole nother generation of entrepreneurs that take ownership over everything that you just described in the way that you described it. And maybe in the next 6-7 years, the employees that we have now that we're teaching B2B sales to, and all of these other value systems, they come to us and say, I've got an idea. I want to go out on my own. And we're saying, great, we're gonna be your first investors. Go get them. Like, maybe we'll roll them into the accelerator program or something else, and then off they go.
You encourage them to dream bigger.
Yeah.
That's the hope.
Thank you so much for hanging out. Great conversation.
Salamat po.